guess at what they think this art piece is about? Yeah, what do you think?
Wait, what's it about?
Or anything, yeah, what's your comment? Oh, thinking. Interesting. Yeah, so actually, oh, no, there it is. This is by an artist named Rafik Anadol, and he's a Turkish, he's from Turkey. And he actually, I don't know if you see the titles that pop up here every once in a while, it's called Melting Memories. This is, he's taken an EEG, or where they attach brain nodes onto your brain, and they talk to their people about thinking about memories, and then they record those brainwave patterns, and he takes that data, that information from different people, and he takes that and figures out how to take those numbers and makes them into that art. So this is like the wow kind of big data art we're talking about. But it's a little confusing, and it's kind of like, how does this happen? And that's what we're going to break it down today and kind of talk a little bit more about what is this and how does someone like that get to this point? So what's the big idea? Big data art is what we're going to talk about today. So let's go back and talk first of all, what do we mean by data visualization? What do you think that means? Yeah.
Data you can see.
Yeah, you guys are doing it all the time. If you ever make a graph or something like that, you're visualizing data, right? So let's look at the history. Our history. Did they do this before? If you look back, it's kind of hard to see some of these pictures, but this is petroglyphs, cave paintings. So the data is basically no facts. It's information. So at that time, their information was whatever they did, what kind of hunt they did, what kind of religious experience they had, and then they would visualize it on caves, paintings, and walls, and describe that to other people. And the Egyptians had hieroglyphics, and that's the same thing. They created their alphabet to explain what they did to do their math. So they're visualizing their data, their information, and sharing it with people. I don't know if you remember in 4th grade, but we come into a classroom and we talk about Leonardo da Vinci and the Vitruvian Man. And he was a scientist, Leonardo da Vinci, and an artist, and an inventor, many, many things. But he would go out in nature and look at real world things, write down the data. He would measure cadavers, right, and decide how proportional they were, and then he would visualize it. So this data visualization has been going on forever and ever. But now we keep hearing this term big data. What is it? Well, we know data is known facts. This little video is kind of nice. It'll explain what is big data. And as I walked in school today, I noticed that everybody had their phones out, they're looking, or somebody's on their computer. This information that's out there is being collected all the time. There's a ton of it. So let's see how this describes what big data is. Oops.
Constantly produce a lot of data. For example, via social media, public transport, and GPS. But it goes way beyond that. Daily, we upload 55 million pictures, 340 million tweets, and 1 billion documents. In total, we produce 2.5 quintillion bytes a day. That's a lot of zeros. It's ridiculous. We call this big data. But what's actually more important is what you can do with it. To process big data, you don't need huge computers. People work with the cloud, an endless network of normal servers, and powerful algorithms. This way, they can analyze over 1 million pieces of data in minutes. And the result? Well, for example, video streaming website Netflix analyzed the big data of their viewers, like popular shows and watching patterns. This way, they produced a successful series with the perfect combination of actors, directors, and storyline. Right now, the big data of traffic is being analyzed to develop a car that can drive completely accident-free all by itself. And in the future, we can even use the big data of DNA to determine the perfect treatment. This way, curing genetic diseases like cancer would become much easier. And that's just the start.
So you guys are already producing a lot of data by every choice you make, and like Netflix and everything like that. So And scientists, as we saw with the medicine, they are all taking that information and learning stuff to do with it, either for advertising and marketing, or maybe in the science field for figuring out problems to questions about medicine. There's a job out there that we wanted to make you aware of. So this is, data scientist is one of the words. My son, his girlfriend, is a data scientist, and she works for Instagram. It's a job, and it's something that's new. And so we want to bring these kind of careers aware to you. And look, what is a data scientist? I mean, that's kind of a weird thing. Is he like that? Is he chemical? You know, what is it? Let's talk a little bit about that. There's 4 major activities that you do with data science. And this kind of breaks it down in simpler terms. So we have a little picture, I don't know if you can see this little girl surfing. There's data surfing. So basically you're going to have a question, like, can I don't know, cure cancer or something like that, or how many people who have cancer have this situation? So you have a question, you're trying to figure it out. This is where you serve. When you explore potential data, you look at the information that's out there and you think, what can help me solve that question? Then you have a part of your job would be data wrangling. So we have this little rodeo, guys. Is gathering all the data. So this is where you would take the information in, and you would have a lot of data that you get back, feedback from all the different places that you can get the data, and you take it and you put it in what makes sense. Then they have data mining. So here's where a lot of the math comes in. They use the word algorithm in there. That's a big math word. But it's basically a math equation that helps you take all that data and make sense of it. So that's what mining would do. They would look at the data and try to make sense of it. Finally, they also have to be a data artist. In that if they just present a bunch of numbers with thousands and thousands of pages, people would be like, I don't know what you're saying. But if they can present it in a visualized way, then it makes more sense. So let's look at, I'm going to go from simpler to more complex with data visualization. Let's look at this piece. It's by an artist. She's also a scientist. What do you think she's trying to say here? Yes?
I think she's showing like it's a graph, but she made it like so it's kind of more interesting than just a line on a paper.
You're right. And that's what art does. It tries to communicate something. And but yet she's an artist and a scientist. So what do you think she's trying to communicate? Yes.
How I think it's kind of about like fish population and how it's kind of like decreasing.
Yeah, look at this. It's like a bar graph here, and you can see it goes up and down, but the trend is basically down. Nature doesn't just go straight down usually, but it kind of, you know, one year you have a lot of rain, next year you have less rain, or whatever. So you're absolutely right. This artist is named Jill Pelto, and she's an environmentalist scientist, but she also likes to create art to help explain her message. So, you guys are in a math class, in science classes, there's all kinds of ways to display data. These are a whole bunch of charts, and I'm going to show you 3 different slides, a whole bunch. Which one of these do you think Jill Pelto used, if you can see? Which one of these graphs? Yes?
The line graph?
Yeah, the line graph, okay? So that was basically, you guys probably know what a line graph is, but there's a whole bunch of ways. So here's another kind. So this one's called a global carbon footprint. And if you look up close, well, it looks like a foot. It's bright and colorful, very interesting. If I went to a science conference and they were talking about carbon emissions and you know which place has more, this would be much more interesting than if they handed me a sheet of paper with a bunch of numbers on it. Because if you look at it, all the orange, I know it's hard for you to see, is Asia. The light green is North America. Europe is the a little bit darker green. So each continent is represented. And the bigger the circle, the more carbon emission that country has. So who do you think might be in this big green down here? Let's say it's North America. What's that? All of that is, but just the big one, which country in North America do you think is the biggest carbon? United States. And how about here in Asia? Which country do you think might be that big circle there? Yeah. Is China. Okay. So much more interesting way of displaying it. Can you tell me which chart that was from?
I didn't really see it, but it's in the bottom corner.
This one? You are right. It's called a packed circle chart. Okay, and so different ways of explaining your data makes it more interesting. We're going to look at this one called a waterfall plot. And what's interesting about that is it's actually a 3D, 3 dimensions. So you have down here time, and you have over here, read that, frequency, and then, oh my gosh, I can't remember what it is. But this is about tidal waves. And so now this kind of graph is showing it in 3 dimensions. You can see form now, and you can see how it changes. So here's an artist that said, I think that's pretty cool. I would like to make something that represents that. So this sculpture is actually made about tidal waves, and it's real information. And so we're starting to get big data and art, but it doesn't necessarily, if you just saw this, you wouldn't know that. But it's inspired by that concept, and it's based on real data. Let's see. So here's some more. Told you I had a lot of them. This time, can you look up there and tell me which one of these you might have seen if you were riding on a metro or a subway station? Which kind of data would be? Yeah.
The transit map?
Yeah, the transit map. So somebody came up with a really cool idea to explain something using a transit map, not for metro. But it says here, under the skin. So what this artist did is they said everything that's red is your arteries. And they put the red line going through everywhere and back to the heart. Everything that's blue is the veins. And so they did it kind of in a fun, interesting way, taking the whole body, the human body, and making it like a transit map. So it's an interesting way to describe and to understand things. All right, so we're getting a little more complicated. Now we're going to look at a guy who is a digital media artist. So he takes, does anyone know what that means? You probably do. Yes.
So is it like making drawing on the computer?
Yeah, drawing. And what were you going to say? You're right.
It's like what she said, but it's like using software to draw.
Using software to draw, things like that. Anything with a digital media as your media. So you can be an oil painting artist where you use oil paints, or you can be a watercolor artist where you use watercolor. So the medium here that we are seeing a lot of these people is digital media, and that is their medium, and they're going to make art. Here's a guy named Aaron Coughlin, and look at some of the projects, and they're based on real data that he's done.
Our lives are being driven by data, and the presentation of that data is an opportunity for us to make some amazing interfaces that tell great stories. So I'm going to show you a few of the projects I've been working on over the last couple of years that reflect on our lives and our systems. This is a project called Flight Patterns. What you're looking at is airplane traffic over North America for a 24-hour period. As you see, everything starts to fade to black, and you see people going to sleep. Followed by that, you see on the West Coast planes moving across the red-eye flights to the East Coast. You'll see everybody waking up on the East Coast, followed by European flights coming in off the right-hand corner. Everybody's moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. Then you see San Francisco and Los Angeles start to make their journeys down to Hawaii in the lower left-hand corner. I think it's one thing to say there's 140,000 planes being monitored by the federal government at any one time. That's another thing to see that system as it ebbs and flows. This is another project I worked on with Sensible Cities Lab and currentcity.org. And it's visualizing SMS messages being sent in the city of Amsterdam. So you're seeing the daily ebb and flow of people sending SMS messages from different parts of the city until we approach New Year's Eve, where everybody says, Happy New Year.
It would be really interesting if you could come to your school and see what the text messaging is that happens here just in the morning. And watching your announcements this morning, it makes me realize this is something that your generation is really having to, it's an exciting part of your generation, but something you're having to think about. So I was just going to ask, how many have seen this before? Excellent. Okay. Can you tell me what you know about it or where you've seen it or any kind of comment? I thought you opened it. It's at the San Jose airport. Anybody know anything about it? Yes.
I don't really know much about it, but it looks like every time you're looking at it, like maybe the light flickers and then you can't see through.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like flickering, these little things kind of flicker lights up. I did the same thing. I'm like, I'm not sure what it is. Does anybody think they know what it's about? Does anybody know who the artist is? It's kind of about clouds. It's about weather. It's called eCloud, and it's by that guy you just saw, Aaron Copeland. And here I've been walking under this for I don't know how long, and we started doing this lesson, and I was like, oh my gosh, we just found out that this is an art project, a big data art project by Aaron Copeland, and it's called eCloud. So I can't wait to go on another trip because I'm gonna go look at it now. I've just walked right past it, get to my gate, you know, and go. And I'm like, oh, isn't that cool? I wonder what that is. But if you look it up online now, and maybe if you go the next time, you'll see that it is about weather patterns, and it takes real data about the weather today, about the weather tomorrow, in different locations, and that information tells it how to change its lights, whether they're on or off. So here's a little video, and in the video, you're gonna see the little screen that shows you where the information is coming from. So the next time you go, you'll know. This is a big data art project right here in San Jose. Called eCloud. See how they're flickering? You see the little computer? See, it says light rain, and this is in Kathmandu, so it changes depending upon what place it's looking at. So we thought that was exciting because it's something you actually can see. All right, so now we got a little more complicated as far as what is big data art. And today, we wanted to do an actual project that you're gonna participate in. All the 6th grade students will take all your information, we'll have a big data art project. But we're like, what can we do? Well, we found this artist, who's also a scientist, and we liked her ideas, and we're gonna is some of you are just about finished, some of you are still working. Everybody's at different pace, but if you listen, I'll give you the next set of directions. Thank you so much for your attention. So now you've gone through and you're, trying to decide which block is what color, and then you have plenty of time. You're gonna go through and count up all the yellow. Some people like to write the numbers right on there if that helps them, if it's too busy. But some can just go through and count them up. You add up the totals, and at the bottom, remember you put those totals down. When you get all your totals in, a couple of important things you do first. You take all your markers, make sure you have 8 of them, make sure the lids are on tight. Put them back in the baggie, and zip it up. Take this will be your passport to get your dots. We'll have some people back there helping you. You can collect some of your dots and come back, or you can collect all of them, whatever you feel like. It's too many at one time. Also, when you're back there, you're going to get a spiral paper. So you take that spiral paper with you, and you bring it back with your dots, and you start in the center with what number?
Well, your most important.
Your number 1, your favorite, right? And you go from there. Is there something else?
Yes, it makes sense to bring your filled out paper with you over to the station together with your markers and your color code, so that if you somehow got confused, we can help you and make sure that, otherwise we can fix it. But if you start and then already just like half an hour, and then you kind of
So your markers, your dot guide, and this. And if you turn this to the side, what does this kind of remind you of? Well, remember Lori Frick's piece of artwork with the sleep patterns? And it was like, oh, you can start looking for your own patterns just in this. But this is got to have your name on it, your teacher's going to collect it for you. So does that make sense? Any questions about that part? Okay. You keep going if you're ready. You got all your markers done? Your markers? Make sure the lids are on.
Oh, right, okay.
And did we give you a pencil too? Yeah. Oh, thank you.
No, she hasn't. Because I don't think I've seen that at the bottom of the page.
And a pencil, if you've already done pencil, bring that back as well.
Have you done the totals? No, so the totals are down here, so you have to total up all of the text colours and write it in so then we know how many stickers to give you.
What class do you have first?
So this is just regular.
So did you write your totals down here? So you've done it. Okay. So you know what is your favorite part?
So this goes to about 10. Now what do you do to this?
Yeah. No, favorite activity. Favorite activity.
So what do you think of this? Do you want to make it sleep? Do you want to make it
So it's sleep is your favorite. And school is your second favorite. Okay. So and your pencil and your do that, then I can just roll the line and
then what you class do is
How much time and break you spend out sleeping? Yeah, you need to most papers, and then your pictures and
You can do like that.
It's baseball, but
Yeah. Your
final phase, and I have some new directions for you that I haven't said before. So thank you for your attention and looking up here. So you've been doing your spiral dots, great. When you're done with all your spiral dots, you're going to make sure your name is on your tally sheet. You're going to bring that, your spiral paper up, and all your scraps. Any extra dots can go back to the dot station. Any paper that's recycled and your other, I'm making too much out of this.
No, you could.
Okay, come up to the front. We've got the recycling bin here for the extra scraps. You can get a pair of scissors, and you can get the vocabulary sheet, okay? And then you go back, cut out your spiral,
They can cut out their spiral
cut out their spiral
there,
right here.
and then
And the
hand it,
stress.
and then get the worksheet.
Okay, now, there's a worksheet with this, with the vocabulary words on it, with a matching for you. But more importantly, there's a bunch of links to the different artists we have. So your teacher has suggested that when you're done, and you've done the vocabulary, you can pull out your computer and look up some of these artists or big data art. The YouTube links on here are not gonna work here at school, but they will work at home. So this is yours to keep, so you can go and look up that information.
But you can just type in their names and see other art projects they've done. You can research other, maybe show us something that we haven't seen.
Yeah, if you come up with that, I'm actually gonna send a survey, so if you find something new that you'd like to share with us, you'll be probably putting that in there. Any questions? Alrighty, let's go.
Homework.
Actually, my creative activity class. Yeah, homework 8. Homework is my 7.
These days I don't have enough time to do creative activities.
My homework is actually 7, so these does not last. What's your favorite day?
They're so tiny.
Exciting.
I like writing papers.
Oh, it's creative activities.
I count that as a sport.
Because I don't do creative activities.
What?
You go to school? Yeah.
Let's start green. Start green is meals. No, I'm not talking about that. Yeah, that's 15 right there.
I wish I could categorize my weekends. That would be a sad day.
The creative activities was 0.
Part of the day.
No, it's I have 6th grade at Western Garden Gardens. So it's not going to be anything. Like, horses look like herds. They wouldn't look like herds.
Did you count? Yeah. Okay. How many boxes was that? Yeah.
You have a lot of rooms.
Oh, dude, that is sad. Putting on the
Yeah, we just cut it out.
Just similar.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of combine as a whole big project.
Comment right now. Side circle.
At the end of the school year. Why don't you go ahead and put that on there?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I have to actually read books. Homework's not last online.
Ooh.
Will we get this back? Will we get this back? Homework's not last on mine either.
Homework's not last
Really
online.
pretty. Homework is dead gosh darn. Your mom
Oh, I have to write my name in the back.
going to here to the let's put it somewhere. I'm gonna put it on the bottom. So you know it's going on the bottom.
Right over there.
35 red, and then you have pink.
Sort of a summary of what we have talked about. And those of you that are finishing your spirals, go ahead. Let's take a look at this. If you could take the lights first. So now you're going to know more about what is data, big data art, and it'll be kind of an exciting subject to talk about at home. So let's look at this last little video. It kind of sums it up for us, and then we're going to look at your big data art project together. So I see some pencils going. There shouldn't be any reason to be writing right now, unless you're finishing up your spiral. Okay, thank you. And here we go. That is the Disney, what is it, Disney Hall? In LA. I think it's the way he likes to show proportion and size, because if without it, it's like, how big is it? So I think, to me, a lot of his artwork, I don't know, I'd have to research that, maybe it's something you can look up. So, if you get the lights, Ms. Nelson, we will show your class. She's a fast schooler, let me tell you.
Get all you guys on here. It was so fun for me as your teacher to see the different things that you like and are involved in. That's why I wanted to glue them, because when you handed it to me, I could check out what you did. Come on.
Okay. Do you want a little, here we go.
Is that all 6th grade?
This is just 3 classes.
Oh, is this just your class?
These are yesterday and today.
Oh, well, this is your class and some of the classes today. So we're gonna do all the 6th grade. And then you wanna start looking for, so a data scientist would be looking for patterns. Maybe ask a question, like, do you think most 6th graders like this more, that more? How much sleep is everybody getting? There could be a lot of questions you could come up with. Did you have some questions or thoughts on this?
So one thing that I find so interesting is when your parents come to the show, this is going to be hanging up, to them it just looks like art that you just put dots there. Just like when you guys saw the videos before, that we didn't really know what some of those art projects were, what they represented.
But if we do a key on the side of it, then your parents can, oh, that means sleep, or that, and then they can have a stronger understanding of it. Also, I think it's interesting, we all could have picked the same amount of dots, and it just shows how different we all are and how great that is.
You guys were an awesome class.
So good. We have about a few more minutes.